Good morning, good afternoon, good day. This is Ian from the Auto Hub Show, celebrating our 4th anniversary. And below me, I got Mr. The Famous Larry Feldman, one of our sponsors. I figured it made sense to start with a couple videos, being that it is 4 years. We do have almost 400 episodes, and I picked a few of my favorites. These are little edits, just because obviously it's in fairness to time. You can check them out on our YouTube channel. And if you are interested in one of these limited edition hats, I have probably about 45 left as I rebrand. If you are interested, $20. You can buy them on the website, no shipping. So big $20. They're available in 4 colors while they last. All right, here we go.
In this stuff. Well, that CRZ, had you put an ICE engine in the CRZ, we would have sold the stuffing out of it. Beautiful car, but the engine itself was it wasn't well received. And again, let's not forget, we've doubled the average fuel economy over the past 20 years for a car, thereby doubling the fuel supply. The cars are cleaner than ever before. And so, we don't have to rush into forcing this on the consumers. I don't think the government should be in charge of consumer demand. I think the consumers should be. And as we make better products, the consumers will naturally gravitate towards them. Better products that are better for the environment, I think that'll accelerate consumer demand for that. But I think forcing the consumers to buy those vehicles by making it more difficult to acquire ICE vehicles, I think that's a mistake.
Dealers have a lot of data, a lot of information that sits in their CRM and their DMS and other systems. And we focus on using technology behind the scenes to help the dealer be a hell of a lot better in effectively communicating with that consumer, whether it's, I'm just looking to buy a car, shopping, to deeper in the sales process and to the purchase process, and then the post-sale service side. And we think about that journey. We say there's a whole bunch of data a dealer has. And how do we help clean that data up? How do we then help the dealer say, you know what? I've got to communicate to the consumers better. So when the consumer's asking for information, actually getting them what they're asking for. Right? When the consumer is stuck in a certain part of the process, I'm using my data effectively to be able to say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, we're going to be able to effectively give you that price and the payment and alternative vehicles when you're shopping for a car, as opposed to just sending with generic communication.
I knew I had to do, which was do what was familiar to me and try my hand at selling cars. So I did. I did very well at it for a year. Was the number one, and I'm not being braggadocious. It's context. I was the number one salesman at the store right away for the 3 months in, and was the shining star of the dealership. So I got benefits very quickly. I got good money very quickly, and I decided to get surgery to try to repair the shoulder, and then segue my back into college my way back into college athletics. Surgery didn't go so well. The doctors kind of, after some time, took pity on the fact that they really didn't do a great job. I didn't get much percentage of my throwing arm back, and I was in a lot of pain. And at that time, opiates were not as highly ranked. Nowadays, everybody knows what they are. Everybody knows about the epidemic that is opiate drugs. But at that time, they were still kind of a novelty thing. You get your tooth pulled, you get a few hydrocodones, yippee-ki-yay. Well, at least it was back.
I'm just happy to be here. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad to meet you because it's a real pleasure. And can you tell us a little bit about your story?
It's a long story.
All right, short and long story.
I was started in the business as a young kid, high school dropout, 20 years old. Made my way up to, before I was 40, to be a managing partner of 2 stores in my hometown. I say in my hometown because that's a proud thing. Normally, some people have to leave to go take an opportunity.
Sure.
And as the pandemic was hitting, my partnership was ended, and I wanted to remain an owner, and I felt it was the will of God, I felt like that's what I wanted to do, and I just stuck to my guns, had faith in God through a pandemic, through a cancer coming back, through a bunch of adversities. Opened up my own used car lot. Now I have 2 used car lots. One of my lots sold 727 cars last year, 62 cars a month. Started from scratch. I had no banks, no inventory, no nothing. I had 14 banks, $1.8 million of inventory, and just living a dream. It's easy to say now, like, oh man, he's a successful guy, but there was a lot of dark moments along the way. Believing in God, keep pressing forward, and I'm thankful to be here, and enjoying life.
All right, those are 4 of my favorite interviews. You can definitely check out the longer cuts on the Auto Hub Show YouTube page, or check it out wherever you get your audio. This is the 4th anniversary show, so I have a limited amount of these hats remaining. I'm selling them for $20, shipping included. You can definitely get them on the website. So good morning and welcome. It is our 4th anniversary show. I have yet to recut the entire lead-in, but I've done some. I'll have a new lead-in shortly, but here we go.
The general manager of Franklin's Kia in Langhorne. I just wanted to take a minute to talk about Larry Feldman, Career Changers USA. Larry and I have been working together for about the last 12 years now. And anything I've ever needed as far as recruiting, training, Larry's been right there. Larry's got me salespeople, he's got me managers, he's got me technicians even through the toughest times in the industry. And he is just the kind of guy who's going to tell you exactly what's on his mind. He's going to tell you exactly what he thinks. But Larry also has the expertise to back it up. When he was in the dealership world, he was a top performer. And that's really important to my staff, especially as it pertains to training. A lot of people can come in and teach out of a textbook, but Larry has real world experience dealing with customers, dealing with situations in dealerships that we go through on a daily basis and try to train on. But Larry's been through it, so he can really empathize with the people and tell you what's worked for him and maybe what way not to go. Larry is just always at a 10. I mean, his energy level is always up there. And I think people, they just love that and they feed off of it. He's not faking it. He is genuinely excited to come in and help you. He's excited to come in and help grow your business. And he's one of those people who just really enjoys seeing dealers succeed and have a lot of fun at the same time.
All right. Life is about connection. Having a support system to lean on. And roads to endless possibility. At every turn, guiding the way, we are building the connections that move you.
So what would your dealership feel like if your entire sales staff was literally on fire, your sales and service staff? They were nonstop all over social media, completely dominating your marketplace. They could do it in 30 days or less and then continue their education to do it for an entire 6 months or a year. You literally would completely take over the entire marketplace and no one would be able to compete with you. And that's what we can do for you. So when you're walking around your community, whether you're at local restaurants or you're going to the gym, you don't want to be bothered? Fine, you won't be bothered. But a lot of people will walk up to you and say, oh my God, I love your social media. Your staff is amazing. We love what you're doing in the community. We want to come buy a car from you. We want to get an oil change at your dealership. Your community is absolutely going to love you. And it doesn't matter what platform you're on. You could be on TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. all social media platforms. You will literally be all over the place. And not only will you have ads running, but your own staff is going to be promoting your brand and promoting themselves within the dealership and within the business. So it's like running an ad times 100-fold because your entire staff is participating in the process. I've traveled all over North America. I've trained Toyota. I've trained Nissan. I've been to driving sales. I've been to Women in Auto. I get hired as a speaker for conferences at universities all over the country. And I can help change the trajectory of your dealership right now.
Good morning and welcome. So we're on 2 platforms, which is fine. And Facebook is working again today, so that's good news. So here we go. All right. So I wasn't sure on books since it is a 4th anniversary show. And I happened to get a book from one of our sponsors, CDK Global, which is called Insights 2024. So if you're interested in data in the automotive industry, Troy said all you have to do is send him an email. And I'm just going to put it up here on the screen. It's Troy, troy.glenn@cdk.com. Let me just make a correction there. I did a typo. And that book will get you all kinds of data on what's going on in the car business. So it's Troy, troy.glenn, 2 N's, GLENN @cdk.com. If you are interested in one of these limited edition hats, we're selling them currently online for $20. No shipping included. So obviously, as always, we have to go through our disclaimer. The views and opinions of anyone on the show are not the opinions of me per se. They're opinions of our guests. You can read it obviously on our website. So it's me or the Auto Hub show. So I just wanted to do some stats since we're celebrating 4 years. We have 388 shows up currently. We have approximately 8,568 show subscribers. And we've got approximately 22,000 minutes of content. We're the only weekly live show in automotive, and we do have a new second show that we have 4 episodes up now, which is a one-on-one interview show. So if you can't be on the live show and you want to be interviewed in a recorded interview setting, you can definitely reach out to Ian. So it's ian@autohubshow.com or hit us up wherever we are online. So we're talking today about the 4th anniversary. So I thought I would start off the show with talking a little bit about the history of the show and a little bit about what I've learned over 4 years. Not that I'm not learning every day. And then maybe what I could do is get some opinions from some of the guests, include 2 of our sponsors, but also 2 of our regulars. So first of all, the show was started in the early days of the pandemic. Let me just minimize this 1 second. So I got to put everyone up here, which I'm going to do. And then, of course, we have Larry on the other side. So the show was started in the early days of the pandemic by 2 friends of mine, Ric Gregson and Brandon Sanchioni. Brandon Sanchioni owns a dealership in Alberta, I believe. Both of them started the show as a Zoom show. We've now transitioning to StreamYard. And the show was really about helping dealers. It was a live show. Very quickly, it became apparent there was a lot of work to do a live show. And I was brought in to be a co-host. And then Ric Gregson, who works for CDK Global, he decided that he was not going to do the show anymore. So then we brought on a new co-host. And then, of course, we are looking for another co-host moving forward. So if you are interested in becoming a co-host of the Auto Hub show, feel free to reach out to me. And maybe we can talk a little bit from opinions from Larry on his exposure to the show, how he got involved, and more importantly, what his thoughts are so far. So go ahead, Larry.
Sure. Well, I happened to view you and our friend, Mr. Polo, and I thought, wow, these guys are pretty cool. I think I'm going to join in. And I think I reached out to you originally, Ian.
Yeah.
And you said, yeah, come on in. Well, the first darn show I was on with you had my buddy, John Latka, and John Kostakis. And Kostakis reached out to me right after and said, you seem a little crazy. I have no idea why he would come to that conclusion, but next thing I know, I'm in Canada doing promotions with Mr. Kostakis. And then, of course, that led me to a whole host of incredible people, the people that are on the show. The friendships that developed with Tim Hayden, with Brooke Furness, and just countless people. So I've always enjoyed the show. I think it's a great way to disseminate information. Everybody gets to state their views. Hey, I'm here.
Fantastic. Thanks, Larry. So we got Jon on. Jon is also a sponsor of the show as well. Jon, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your experience with the Auto Hub show. I know you were a little bit late in the fourth season, but what was your opinion so far? You know, I mean, obviously you also attended some live shows with us, but what's your opinion so far, and how did you get involved with the show?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I am kind of probably more of a rookie, less of a veteran than most people that are going to be, regulars here. But yeah, my COO at Ultra BDC, Mandy, was connected up with you guys and put us in touch, and and she's she was working with you guys, I believe, with some marketing and this and that, and helping with the sponsorship. So it was a great opportunity for me to when I started working with Mandy, to connect up with you guys. And I think the show's great, and I'm always kind of a bit quiet on the show because everyone seems like they're super expert on what's going on in the automotive world, and I feel like I'm super niche in sort of my dimension of automotive, which is big BDC and working with dealerships in a certain very small dimension. But what was really the most exciting thing for me was to come down to NATA for the first time this year and hang out with you guys, right? Hang out with you, hang out with Jeff, and a lot of the people that are part of the show. Larry, we're down there, got to experience kind of that amazing for the first time, that amazing convention or trade show, whatever it's called.
Yep.
With you guys. And overall, as time goes by, it's just nice to become more and more intimate with the community, with different people. And it's like learning with learning every show. It's super interesting as far as learning about EVs, learning about what's going on down in the States, which I'm fascinated by, as opposed to only knowing what's going on up north of the border. And it's great, and I appreciate being part of it.
Thanks, Jon. So we got Tim on. I mean, we interviewed Tim at NADA, and we're doing a show next week called the AIAIO show, which should be interesting. We're going to have a lot of different technical people on, and Tim is technical, but he's also a people person. So we've done a number of interviews. But Tim, maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you got involved in the show and sort of, what your thoughts are.
Well, I sent an email to you and said I'm a people person with technical talent, and here I am. No, no, I think it was Troy Shear.
Yep.
I think it was Troy Shear with the National Independent Auto Dealers Association who suggested one time to y'all and to me, hey, maybe we should talk. And to really echo what's already been said is every Monday morning, this is it's a menagerie of characters. It's that. So it's with saying the least, it's entertaining to be here. But I think the spectrum of topics that we cover, it is all about the auto industry and how it's changing. It's the consumer's point of view. It's the subprime lender's view. There's always a surprise waiting for you when you get here. And of course, I just enjoy the time that I'm able to be here. I can't always be here, but when I'm here, I sure have a good time and always hope to contribute.
Thanks very much. And then last but not least, Joel Benson. To be blunt, he's also a sponsor of the show as well. But Joel, I know, was doing some homework on different shows before he decided to connect with us at the Auto Hub show. Maybe you can talk a little bit about your experience so far, Joel. I know you're in the auto industry, but in other industries. But go ahead.
Sure, I'd be happy to. And good to see you guys. I've been with Ian now for about almost a year and a half. And when we first launched VidCalls, we wanted to go after multiple vertical industries, but automobile was one of them. So we searched around and looked for different ways that we could get exposure online. And once we found the Auto Hub show, we started negotiating with Ian. His pricing was fair. It was $50,000 a month to be a sponsor, but we thought that was most reasonable. I took that to our investor group.
Wait a minute, Joel. He's charging me $60,000 a month. I think I need you as my agent.
This is true. Hiding in the dark, Larry. Hiding in the dark. So we were able to get that down a little bit. We negotiated pretty hard, and and could not be happier. Ian is a phenomenal guy. He's opened the doors to so many different automobile dealerships and groups, and he's so well respected. Everyone that we speak to always mentions that Ian's Ian Nethercott, and it's great. Happy to be along for the ride, Ian, and congratulations on number 5.
Thanks very much. So I guess what I would ask, and anyone can answer, I mean, what was the craziest show in your opinion in terms of variety of content or opinions? And I know Larry has some, but you know, what was the craziest show, whether it be a live show or whether it be one with different guests, in your opinion?
Joel, for $60,000 a month, you get to talk first.
Well, Larry, with all due respect, take it away, boy.
Well, you know, I believe we create our own environment. So speaking for myself, I try to bring a little craziness wherever I go because life's too short to not be smiling. But I think what's interesting is the tone of the show has always been open and friendly. And you don't really find a lot. I mean, I kid around a lot, but you don't really find a lot of adversarial stuff. And if you listen to other podcasts, it's like, it sounds like it's mud wrestling or professional wrestling. The anger and the hostility on this show, it seems like everybody seems to have an opinion, and they could be strong, differing opinions, but it just seems like everybody feels comfortable to be what they are. And that's probably a tribute to the show and the nature of the show, because if you're not comfortable, obviously it's going to always restrict what you do and how you do it.
Appreciate that. Tim, you have any thoughts? I mean, I know you've done live stuff with us as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything Larry just said. You know, you and Jeff, because you the only two guys I've known to host the show. Mm-hmm. In fact, it was I was today old when I found out that somebody else started the show, right? Yeah. But you know, but at the end of the day, you know, you guys always set up the environment to make it playful. You know, it is super playful, and it's I think that could be in part right. Is I'm way down here in Austin, Texas. I'm about 3 hours from the border with Mexico, and the majority of the folks that I join on your shows, and especially when it was just the two of you, it's somebody who's in an altogether different country way north of here. You know, so the diversity, I think the diversity of not so much the points of view. I think all of us agree that this is an industry that's under siege and under great change right now. And I say siege from a competitive standpoint, right? And a regulatory standpoint. But you know, there's a great amount of change that's happening out there right now. And I think it's a testament for the entire auto industry. You know, I haven't met a car dealer yet, or anybody with an OEM, who doesn't have a glass that's half full, right?
Right.
It doesn't matter how ugly it gets. And they may point fingers, but more than anything, they're very stoic in saying, hey, I'm going to control what I can control. And I think that DNA has certainly resonated on the show itself. You guys have done a fantastic job of keeping the conversations never goes quiet. I'll say that. It never goes quiet, and it's full of laughter. Even when Larry's not here, there's somebody else who steps up and gets a little crazy. So, you know, you guys are just keep doing what you're doing. Yeah? I mean, don't mess it up now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when we talk about that. Thanks for that, Tim. We were talking about the mix of live events and also, you know, live every week. But when I came up with the 4 videos for this morning, which were my 4 picks, what was interesting was just sort of the stuff that comes out as you do interviews with people. That's true with our new interview show, but it was also true with live, our ambush interviews, where we put mics in front of people, and the stuff we get sometimes surprises us, like really surprises us. So if you haven't checked out the Lukenheimer interview from NIADA last year, that's a pretty interesting interview just because his story is interesting. But more importantly, I think that's not the only one. I mean, we've had interviews from big companies down to used car dealers, down to a couple we interviewed, I think, at that show that just, they thought it was a good idea to sell cars, had no idea how to do it. and just decided to go out and do that. So to me, that's really what the car business is about at its core. It's people willing to take a risk and figure it out, no matter what happens, no matter what challenges they get hit with. And I think that's what really makes the car business a passionate project for me, is that I don't think it's going away anytime soon. What do you think, Tim? I mean, not Tim. What do you think, John?
Again, I feel like I don't have a huge, background with you guys to really give an in-depth answer.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's good to be here. It's good to sort of, be around a bunch of people that are experts, in the various fields. Specifically, were you asking what the most sort of explosive thing that happened on one of the shows was? Was that the
well, yeah, the craziest sort of comment or thought process in your opinion, based on the shows that you've been privileged to be part of. I mean, you've been on the show quite a bit, but also you've been seeing us live in different events. I mean, what do you think is the sort of craziest scenario that has gone on, like on a show? What do you think?
Well, I mean, what I found was like I guess the show, I've been to 10, 12 shows or something like that.
Yeah.
We were doing some live interviews down in Vegas. But on the show, I think what I found was the most explosive kind of content was the discussions around EVs and about what was going on with EVs, about the regulation of forcing people into EVs. The overall, before I was in those discussions, and I think it kind of, maybe there's one show that focused on it, but there was some overlap in other shows where that it's a huge thing. It came in.
Right.
Before that, it was kind of black and white as far as I was concerned. And I realized there's a huge amount of complexity in this area, in this discussion.
Right.
So it's fascinating for me to hear the kind of polarized views, in terms of people that think it's going to be this huge solution, and people that are more skeptical. Right. I'm not going to say where I stand exactly, because I haven't really formed a definite opinion yet, but I'm starting to think that it's not as simple as just like, let's go out and all buy Teslas,
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up, because the first interview that I picked was a Benstock interview, and he was talking about EVs in that interview, because the interview was about the manufacturer versus the dealer. And this was a show from, I think, a year and a half ago now, and he was talking about the early days of fuel injection and airbags. He said when fuel injection came about, they didn't fuel inject everything. They picked a car and they saw how that went, and then eventually it went through. And he said the same thing about airbags. You didn't start with 12, you started with 1. And they weren't sure how people were going to deal with airbags. They had no idea. But he says that the whole idea that you can change everything to electric tomorrow and everyone's just going to buy that is a little bit crazy. And he said in Manhattan, where he happens to have a dealership, you'd have to sell extension cords with the cars, because where are you going to plug this thing in? And I thought it was really interesting, just because he's got, I think, 40 years in the business. But more importantly, he has the ability, in my opinion, and maybe the tenacity to basically say what he thinks, despite the fact that he's one of the largest dealers in the U.S. But what was interesting that you bring up about EVs, and we've had many shows where we've had, I guess, the fanboys versus the detractors, is EVs seem to be this conversation that's shifting a little bit. Fisker, it looks like, it's going to go bankrupt. I think Magna lost $400 million trying to build their car. A bunch of other cars are discounting to try and sell them. I mean, there's a lot of shift, but I think what really came through in his interview is he says, when the government tries to tell you what to buy, that's a mistake. And I agree with that. I think that still resonates today. What do you think, Joel?
What I like the most about your show is I watch CNN and some of the other news stations, and I hear experts talking and arguing, and the way you guys do it, you respect one another. Everyone on your show always gets respect, and that's why it's so easy and carefree. And I watch and write down. I take a lot of notes and get opinions from you guys. And it's done so casually, and never any infighting. It's always done with a smile, like you had said, Tim, but the message permeates that way, and it's been just totally enjoyable. I love coming into all your shows, no matter what the subject matter is. And you have a lot of different subject matter, which I really like as well. Because
Hey, Ian, everybody knows I tend to veer towards the reckless side. It's how I like to live. But I'm also a philosopher, and I've studied Socratic philosophy, and Socrates and Plato believed moderation in all things. The problem with the EVs is not, you should be able to say, gosh, that's a great alternative. I want it, not this is the only thing you can buy. That's the same government mistake that they made with prohibition, which just enhanced organized crime and made people insane. But in your show, you tend to understand moderation. You know, you have crazy people on like me. You have quiet people on like me. Again, it's like everything else in the world. If we just avoid extremes in anything, if we're willing to say, used to be in our country, I'm saying our country, Joel, we're excluding the Canadian here, that's your opinion, you're entitled to it, I'll fight for the death to preserve it. That's gone by the wayside. It seems like everybody's in their corner and they're willing to punch in the nose if you disagree. So I think you guys deserve a pat on the back for being moderate, for being willing to listen to all sides. You know, you tend to come down more on the sides than I do, but that doesn't mean we call people horrible names, you know, no. If we don't agree with them.
Yeah, it's got to be about common sense. And I think that you hit right on the head. I mean, I see that across the world these days is there's a focus on polarity, not necessarily common sense. And at the end of the day, it is really about common sense to me. I'm happy to listen to anyone else's opinion. I mean, hey, feel free to try and convince me, even if I might feel I'm right. But
by the way, I spoke to Joel's accountant. He is re-upping for $50,000, but he's going to give you $50,000 $1 checks that are post-dated. It's a business thing.
Larry, we'll start off with this, Larry. There you go. There you go, my friend.
Wait a minute. You just did the world's greatest promotion for what's wrong with our economy because you held the $100 bill up and it disappeared.
Yeah, they did.
Well, I mean, as we move forward into season 5, I guess my other question would be, how could we improve the show? What could we add that maybe we haven't added in the past, and how could we make it a better show? How could we improve it? Maybe whoever wants to go first.
I have one right away.
Yeah.
Your guests, you need to get diversity.
Okay.
You need to get it from African Americans, car salespeople. I'd love to see a show where there's just car salespeople on from different parts of the country, and not us experts, but just car salesmen.
Write that down, Ian. Just car salesman. We could do it right from a local prison. It's perfect.
That too.
And now from Folsom Prison, ex-car salesman.
I think Spanish. I think Korean. You know, I would get more diversity of the show. Okay. That's all. That's my opinion.
Thanks for that, Tim.
Yeah, I mean that's the first thing I was going to say, and diversity is so much deeper than how people identify in terms of their ethnicity. It is. Joel was right off the cuff. Was the first thing I was going to say is more car people, and I mean that in the sense that people that are working in the dealers. There's a lot of vendor talk. There's a lot of consultant talk. There's this crazy guy who's a trainer from Jersey who shows up every once in a while.
Yeah. Who could that be?
We gotta look out for. But it's less Canadians. I think that's when we talk about diversity. Yep. We need fewer Canadians on the show.
Okay, no problem.
How much hockey can you talk, Tim? I mean, come on.
Hey, Panthers, we'll take it all this year. Bring that cup back to Florida where it belongs.
Yeah. Well, I hear the Maple Leafs are out again. Toronto Maple Leafs.
I also think that if you had a couple shows on maybe bringing in some service advisors from car dealers, obviously that's the biggest mishmash that there is in service departments, and get points of view from them, as well as the salespeople, maybe some F&I people, just a lot of different facets of a dealership.
Hey, Joel, how about, and I'm not being a smart aleck, how about some non-car people? Because unfortunately, we tend to be a little insular. We tend to see it from the inside out. How about getting some views from the outside in? You know, because what our perception is and what the public's perception is completely different.
That's a great idea. I don't know how you can find a customer show.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Absolutely.
Because I did have a question from a local Ford dealer. I'm going to be doing a remote there, and he asked about customers, and I thought that was really interesting to have a show about customers' opinions of how to improve the process. Because we hear a lot of these studies. This is the latest one, but we hear a lot of these studies about, you know, what customers think or what customers are, what they believe. And there was one, I guess, from our Car About Car shows studies about that as well. But what do the customers actually think? Like, how do they think dealers can improve the process? How do they think salespeople could do a better job?
There's two components with that. I can tell you from running my dealership. First of all, you've got to find a format for them to be able to listen. We used to bring customers into a hotel room and feed them, and and just ask them what they thought of our service department and their treatment. But the more important component is actually taking what you hear and putting it into practical application. Because I think in all businesses, and particularly car dealerships, we hear an idea, we all nod our head, and then nothing happens.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, when you deal with customers, I mean, I was actually going to get a shirt made up for a soda. I didn't have enough time, but it's all about customers, because that's really what every business at the end of the day is about. Without the customer, there is no business. And I think that's something, to your point, Larry, that we forget a little bit when we're focused on the technology and the OEM and the car and the process and F&I and service. It's really about how we make it easy for the customers. I was at my brother's house last night for dinner, and his daughters just had a granddaughter and looking for a van, and they told him 1.5 years to wait for this van. And then there's a dealer that's got 10 on the ground, but he won't sell them for MSRP, even though he's got 10 of them, which I thought was interesting. So he's like, well, I bought cars there before. Well, maybe you need to change your dealership and brand, because clearly they don't want to help you. It's kind of interesting. What do you think, Tim?
I mean, I think everything we're talking about here, right? I mean, is you mentioned Brian Benstock, right? And one of the things Brian has done, when he was going to a night class at NYU and listening to Jeff Galloway, right? Scott Galloway. And he walked out of that, I think, a number of times and just said, listen, I don't need to talk to car people as much as I need to talk to everybody else in the world to understand how the world's changing. And that, that is, that's how I got in the car business. He was my very first client, right? Yeah. We got the nod from him to come in and help him have a different perspective on customer experience, a different perspective on how to run the dealer operation. And I think we're going to see more of that, right? I just think we're, we talk about this a lot. Digital transformation is something that happens to you more than something that you empower or enable. And with that, that's not a statement about technology as it is just in terms of how society perceptions and overall ways of commerce and business are changing constantly right now. And to do that, the retail automotive business is going to have to look and see how people do things in retail, in healthcare, in banking and financial services. They're going to have to start to share, I wouldn't call them best practices, but different points of view. They need to be able to engage like that.
Well, it was interesting. I was going through a lot of episodes over the weekend, and one of them, it was an interview with one of the gentlemen from Carvana when Carvana's stock was in the toilet, unfortunately, at the time. And he wasn't there live because he was dealing with that. And it was interesting because he said the following. He said, if you had have told me 6-7 years ago it was going to be this much of a mess in the car business, I never would have started. And I thought that was really interesting, just from a person who wasn't from the car business originally and did obviously move towards changing it in a big way. And I think that it's going to be certainly interesting to see how companies like Amazon and others take from other verticals they're already in. mean, there's a lot more similarity than differences. We talk about it a lot on the show about you can recruit people who work in hospitality or work in the hotel business or work in, for, I guess, airlines or in call center environments, because they already are used to dealing with a lot of challenge, and they're all about customers. And I think that's really, as you look at these changes with AI and other technologies, we're going to need people that can do multiple tasks well. And I think,
but Ian, the good news is that perspective has never changed. When Lee Iacocca left Ford and took over Chrysler, he famously said, "I had no idea this company was this screwed up. They had like 200,000 K cars that had been reported and were sitting a lot with weeds." So, Henry Ford famously said, "You can have any color you want as long as it's black on the Model T." Yeah. I think the key is technical guys like Tim, who are always trying to push the envelope, guys like Joel that see basic problems and try to fix them, and people like me that just try to be human and make people smile. Tim, I was at a job last week, fabulous job, and I got like 11 people in a room, and I think I'm going to get 9 of them hired, which is an unbelievably high ratio. And I called the dealer that night, and he said, "I can't believe you're calling me." I said, "Why the hell wouldn't I call you? You paid me. I got you great people. I want to make sure they connect." He says, "Yeah, it's just that doesn't happen much." Well, why not? I mean, if we don't take the technology we have and then wrap it back into being a human, we're dead. We're dead, because when you look at the plethora, and that's the only word, the crazy amount of people that don't answer their phone, that don't know how to look people in the eye, that don't know how to finish a sentence, it's frightening. So, but I honestly think we could have had the same conversation 20 years ago, 30 years ago, or 40 years ago. Don't you think, Tim? I mean, the technology is obviously moving at an unbelievable pace the last 40, 50 years, right? The first computer at the Henry Ford Museum is 2 blocks long.
Right. Well, and you just have to, you think about that statement about rehumanizing the experience. The jam, what's really funny about this is the last 20 years of technology is what dehumanized the experience. That's what did it, right? Was everybody sitting at their desk waiting for their CRM to give them an alert that a lead was waiting for them, right? And it happened with software in Silicon Valley, and then it happened to everybody else. Yeah. And it removed that magical thing that is a customer relationship from the equation. And this is what the promise of artificial intelligence, of much of the automation that comes with it, is to give the human the insight they need to rehumanize the conversation and rehumanize the relationship. So you guys that are BDCs, you guys that are talking about video calls, you're part of the story. You're absolutely part of the story. It's just down in the bowels of the organization, the data's got to be right and the AI's got to be tuned to empower that to happen. You can be as fancy as you want with your wares, but you're just going to be part of the same problem that was the Salesforce problem before. And I say Salesforce in terms of the company name, which was the over automation of the sales process and ultimately the customer relationship.
Oh, 100%.
But you could solve all that, Tim, the over automation. Just put all these pinheads on the phone and let them go through 9 prompts. Or when you keep hitting the button that says enter this information and it won't let you enter it. There is no substitute for human beings. We sometimes we wish there were, but there aren't.
100%.
How do you spell your last name, and what are the last 4 numbers of your social security number?
Yeah, I'm going to jump in here for a second, guys, because when I was thinking about the most explosive things we talked about on the show, maybe I said EVs, but maybe what I should have said was the way dealerships treat people, and some of the emotions that brought up and the stories that brought up, and things that Peter Martin was talking about, and everyone. It was really far out because obviously what Tim is saying about automations, part of the technology has helped dehumanize the industry, and it's a big part of what I do and what I've been doing for like 10, 12 years is try to bring that human touch back in. And it's shocking to me how, no matter what type of systems are in place at a dealership, no matter how they do their lead gen, no matter how they do their digital marketing, no matter how they do their whatever, all their e-blast and everything else. At the end of the day, if they don't have someone who can actually, connect with people, build some rapport with people, and maintain that relationship, I mean, they're outsourcing that stuff to companies like myself because they cannot do it in-house. They cannot find people that can do this job. We're talking about sales reps, sales managers, whatever they've got going on there. So I do think it is kind of like it's very enjoyable for me to listen to all these conversations where, at the core level, when you're selling something that's $25,000, $50,000, $100,000, you better have someone who can actually, connect with someone and, nurture that relationship, and re-engage them at the right time, or you're dead in the water, right?
John, have you ever I don't mean this facetiously. Have you ever been on a sales floor at a car dealership?
What's that?
Have you ever worked as a salesperson at a car dealership?
Yeah.
Okay, well then you know the truth that I know, that what guys talk about all day long is not sex, it's not sports, it's that there's no business. And then when a car pulls up, three guys go, he's probably not a buyer, let's send the rookie out. So if you've got that kind of self-fulfilling negative prophecy, where the hell are you going to go? Tim, I outsold everybody that I ever worked with, and any store I go into, I'll outsell them. You know why? Because everybody that I ever got out of the car, I went, I'm selling them. I was that naive. Because when you think the two slick guys are the same guys that were the .com guys that made $12 million, and now they're living in their mother's basement because they owe $42 million. You gotta look at everything as an opportunity and be excited about it.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah. Well, and this is just a nod on this 4th anniversary. Is that many times on this show we've had Doug Reeves join us from A to Z Sync, which is using technology to bring back that one-to-one relationship, right? And Peter Smith, who's another person that I met on this show. And he used to talk a lot about Sewell, who I grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, always exposed to, who did that, right? Without technology. They established a one-to-one relationship, same person for 15 years. Whether it was service or whether it was sales or whatever it was, the one person we went to, we didn't call the main number and say, transfer me to service, please. We called this one person, right? And they took care of us, right? And that's, and John, you're right. But I hope what you're doing right now isn't long lived. And that doesn't mean that I hope you don't succeed. I hope that there is a return back to what it's like to have that one-on-one relationship, and where there is an acute attention paid to the customer relationship that we're all agreeing doesn't exist right now.
Tim, I'm doing it one class at a time all over the United States and sometimes in Canada. How important it is to look people in the eye, look at people as annuities, not annoyances.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, when you look at service, when you look at sales, when you look at hospitality, you look at, I'm actually flying to Asodu next month, and, they send you an email trying to upsell you on your airplane ticket, but there's no conversation. It's just, you should just give us more money because we sent you an email, which just, it's, and then of course, on the other side of it, my cell phone companies are trying to sell me a new phone for 3 months. They just keep calling with no new game plan. It's the same game plan every single call. It's like, adapt, guys. It's clearly not working. It's just kind of interesting. Joel, you've been a little quiet. What do you think? We got a little bit of time left.
You got me thinking. I agree with you, Tim, and Larry, all of you. It's one-on-one. It's relationship. It is. And it's not like walking. You walk into a Target store and no one's there to really help you. You just find whatever you want after you throw around 25 different pairs of pants and underwear and everything until you get the one that you buy, and then the stock person has to go fix it and re-put the stuff in because you threw it all around because nobody was there to help you. It is about relationship, and there's no reason why relationships can't start in the dealership. None. It is in all sales. So I'm in. I mean, I'm 100% in with this conversation. And again, the more customers that you can get on and have some of your Auto Hub shows, with more of the sales side and getting opinions from is going to help.
Maybe salespeople versus customers. That would be interesting. All right. Well, we're almost out of time today. It was a really interesting show. Not at all what I expected, but that's normally what happens. As we're going to a SOTU, be there later this month. Larry and I will be doing some interviews. My wife will be there as well. Whether she's going to be doing interviews with us or not, I don't know. But there will be a bunch of ambush interviews. I haven't been to the conference before, and I lived in Baltimore many years ago, so I've been there in about 30 years. But I did live there years ago, so I'm interested in that. And obviously, we are looking for a new co-host. I'm not in a panic situation, but if you know anyone who wants to take on the mantle and be a co-host, have them reach out. And, obviously for any of the regulars, if you're interested in one of our famous hats, just send me your choice color and your mailing address, and I'm happy to send that out to you. I have red, blue, white, and black. There's limited amounts of white.
Model for you.
Yeah.
Let me model for
There's
you.
limited amounts of white. So if you want white, act quick. And Larry, I'll be bringing those for you and your wife, obviously. And that's it from me. Any final thoughts? Go ahead. Anyone can start.
The fact that I'm able to meet you guys and to meet Larry has just been a pleasure all by itself. And I mean that sincerely, all of you. You don't have to be the jokester. You don't have to be the smart guy like Larry. Everybody tries to be like Larry, but you can't be like Larry. He's terrific. And everybody on the show is terrific. And Ian, I commend you and the job that you've done and just keep, like Tim said before, keep on going.
Can we I always dial it back to music, right? In the end, it's the last Beatle line. In the end, the love you make is equal to the love you take and give, and all that crap. It's all about human beings. I had the pleasure of meeting Joel through this show. We became buddies. He made a remark earlier about hiding in the dark. I sent him some of my music, and he named one of his horses after one of my songs. I met Tim on this show. And I'll never stop thinking about the dinner I had with me and him and Troy. It was just off the hook good. And John and I had a great time. If you're smart enough to understand we're going to be on this globe for a short period of time, and you want to turn the volume up every day, and you want to make friends and experience, that's what real salespeople do. I don't care whether you're selling widgets or cars. They become your friend. And it's not phony. If someone that feeds your family isn't important to you, who the hell is important to you? So it's just about absorbing and understanding. I feel the same way you do. John, I don't know you quite as well as I know Joel and Tim, but it was a pleasure hanging with you and talking to you here and there. And I've really become buddies with these other guys. I hope we expand our relationship the same way. And Ian, just keep doing the good job you're doing, my buddy. I mean, if you can sell hats and then build Joel for $50,000 a month, I'm all in.
Fantastic. Tim, any final thoughts?
That's all the same. Just right. Keep doing what you're doing. I saw you taking notes a few times when we were talking about the change about the show. It ain't broke, so there's not a whole lot.
No, Tim. Those notes were make sure I'm stay on my antidepressants because you could tell I was a little down today.
Well, about on crossing the border, things to look out for over the
Just tell him I'm not going to see Larry. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
He's already on their list.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're still mad about the COVID thing when I snuck out of the country.
No, happy anniversary. Yeah.
Thanks very much. You guys have yourself a great week. And John, I'll send that out to you. Tim, let me know what color and address, and I'll get that out to you.
Tim, will you be at will you or Joel be at SodaCon?
Yeah.
I don't know. Joel's not going to be there. I'm not sure on Tim. Anyway,
I'll reach out to him. Stay healthy, guys. Good show.
All right, bye.
Bye.